Boston Celtics fans, you know how fun our watch parties can get. Well, we're going to be live tomorrow for Boston Celtics versus the Western Conference contender, the Dallas Mavericks. If you guys are joining us and you want a shout out on tomorrow's video, super easy. All you guys have to do is comment banner 18 down below and we'll spread the love. What's up, Boston Celtics fans? Welcome into Celtics Today by Chat Sports. I am your host, Allie Barefoot, and the NBA buyout market will close tomorrow on March 1st, and there's one name that has now appeared on the buyout market that I personally think could be a great addition as a role player to the Boston Celtics. We're going to break down that player in the first half of the show, but on the back half, the Boston Celtics have huge questions they need to answer in the offseason, especially if they do not win banner 18 this year. So you guys are going to want to stick around to see what Boston Celtics players could possibly stay in Boston next year and which ones have the chance to leave. Well, in the first half of this video, like I said, let's talk about that player that just entered the market. That's Patty Mills, the longtime NBA Australian veteran. Shams Charania did tweet this out earlier this morning saying the Atlanta Hawks did waive Patty Mills. And typically towards the buyout market, a lot of teams will waive players to allow them to go compete for another playoff contender. The 15-year veteran just didn't get a lot of playing time in Atlanta, not due to his playing abilities, but just because Atlanta's really trying to find their wave right now, especially as DeJounte Murray's not fitting in their offense as well. But he did have a very limited role, but that doesn't mean he can't be helpful to the Boston Celtics. He's played for 4 NBA teams in his career, and throughout the past 4 seasons, obviously his stats have gone down as he's only played 19 games this year. But as you guys can see, when he does play upwards of 40 games, he produces pretty good numbers for a role player that's going to be averaging between 15 to 18 minutes per game, especially when it comes to catch and shoot 3-point shots. The Celtics do have to stay under $12 million. They're already above that tax apron. So any player they do get has to be $12.1 million or less. Well, thankfully, Patty Mills is not that expensive, but when it comes to his offensive abilities, he can definitely be a huge asset. Like I said, he's a 15-year veteran in the NBA. He's 35 years old, so not nearly as old as Al Horford, but he's definitely going to provide some veteran experience in the locker room to a fairly younger NBA team. He did play for the Trailblazers, the Spurs for over 10 years with Popovich. He played for the Brooklyn Nets for 2 seasons, and now he's with the Atlanta Hawks. He also won the NBA championships in 2014 with the San Antonio Spurs, so it's good to know if he does come to the Celtics, he's got some playoff experience, which is a number one reason why I do think the Celtics should at least call about Patty Mills. Why? Because he makes $6.8 million. Well, that's $6 million less than their total cap space. He has playoff and finals experience, not just with the San Antonio Spurs, but with Greg Popovich, one of the best NBA coaches that is still going on in the league right now. And he adds depth at the point guard position. He also would fill the final roster spot, even though I've been praying that it'd be Blake Griffin. Unfortunately, I do think it could be somebody like Patty Mills, and I do know they just picked up Jaden Springer, who's more of a point guard, shooting guard type of asset. Xavier Tillman's going to be down in the front court, so I think to have Patty Mills, another catch and shoot kind of guy, and a very scrappy player on both ends of the ball, could be a good addition to end that roster. Fill that final roster spot. Here's the thing, though. With how good the Boston Celtics are, any player going to pick up, I've said this time and time again, he's not going to push the needle. That's okay. He adds scoring depth. He's a great ball handler. He's scrappy as hell. The number of steals that I've seen Patty Mills complete in the Barclays Center when I used to work for the NBA and watch a lot of those games is insane. I do think Patty Mills fits the mold for the Boston Celtics. But that is just me. You guys know what we do here on Celtics Today is that I talk, I show you the stats, and you guys drop your comments down below so we can keep this thing going. All you guys have to do to let me know if you want Patty Mills to come to the Boston Celtics, just type Y for yes, type N for no. Go on ahead and drop that down below. And then I told you guys in the back half of this video, you're going to want to stick around because we're going to be breaking down the Boston Celtics contracts, as I've seen a lot of your comments saying, why are there rumors out there about trading Jaylen Brown? Well, because he's going to be making $60 million in the near future. So you're going to have to break down how much the Celtics have and how far they can go. In just one moment, let me go ahead and break down our sponsor here on Celtics Today, Prize Picks. the #1 daily fantasy sports app in America right now. And the best part about PrizePicks is that it's finally officially full-blown hoop season. If you guys are into college basketball as much as producer Smitty is, PrizePicks is the destination you need to be going to in order to make your picks for any collegiate and NBA game as well. It's tournament time. It's starting to rev up. I love March Madness. That's a huge thing for me, even though I'm not a big college basketball fan, but that's okay because I still put my picks in on NBA. They're not biased. You can combine your picks with NBA, college basketball, NFL, MLB, NHL, Call of Duty. There are numerous categories here. PrizePicks has it all. But like I said, I'm more of an NBA girly, hence why I host NBA shows. So I do have Steph Curry to have more than 5 assists. His shot hasn't been falling since the All-Star break, but his assists are pretty good right now, averaging about 5.7 assists per game through the last 4 games. I mean, come on, I'm taking the more there. However, the Bucks are still struggling to find their run. So I am going to take Giannis to have less than 28 points. It feels weird. I don't ever want to take less on Giannis points, but the way that it's been rolling right now, let's give it a gamble. All right, so these are my prize picks. All you guys have to do is go to prizepicks.com/CLNS. Use promo code CLNS for a first-time deposit match up to $100, and you can watch yourself win some real money in real time. The Boston Celtics are really pushing up against the front door when it does come to cap space. They actually do have the least amount of projected cap space moving forward in the NBA seasons, and it's unfortunate because Brad Stevens is crafting one of the best rosters I've ever seen, but when you put the best players together, you're going to be paying big bucks for these guys. So when you look ahead and you look into the offseason, there are numerous expiring contracts and some choices that are totally up to the player here. So Luke Cornett, Xavier Tillman, and Sema Hyluk, they're on expiring contracts. They will not be back next year unless Brad Stevens wants to add them back to the roster. However, for Jrue Holiday and O'Shea Brissett, their contract is not technically over. It's a player option. They have the choice to come back to Boston or enter the free agency. The way that Jrue Holiday has been playing, I do think that he would like to come back to Boston, but I do know that it's been a difficult year trying to transition from Milwaukee to the Boston area. Hopefully he has now settled in and he's enjoying his time, but this is going to clear up a few dollars here and there. I mean, about $7-8 million. I can definitely get you one good role player, but the $40 million a year player option, that's going to make a huge difference if Jrue Holiday decides to decline. So this is what Brad Stevens needs to focus on in the offseason. He needs to figure out Jrue Holiday's player option, and more importantly, he needs to extend Jayson Tatum. I'm going to talk about that contract extension in just a few moments, but I want to jump back to Jrue Holiday here and how he's been adjusting to the Boston area. We know Jayson Tatum was going to be a franchise player since he was drafted, but Jrue Holiday is one of the newcomers. And he did tell Brian Robb, he actually said that he's been enjoying Boston. He said, "I'd like to be here. I feel like I'm getting more and more comfortable, loving the guys, loving the organization, and loving the city. And of course, loving winning. The Boston Celtics are the best team in the NBA. Of course, they're going to enjoy playing in Boston, Jrue Holiday, but I'm glad that he's enjoying everything else. Here's why the Celtics need Jrue Holiday and should be keeping him as happy as possible is because he really does make a difference in the backcourt for the C's. He is right now shooting the best corner three in the NBA at 63%. He's second in assists on the Celtics with 4.8. However, Jayson Tatum's in first with 4.9. He's also first in rebounds per game among all the Celtics guards with 5.7 rebounds per game. Like I said, making a difference. So a player option is going to be crucial for Jrue Holiday in the offseason. And he did also tell Brian Robb he would like to have an extension done before the end of the season. That's definitely going to be something we'll be monitoring here on Celtics Today. But if you guys want to see Jrue Holiday stay in Boston and not go into free agency, you think he's truly making a difference here with his defensive assets and offensive assets, all you guys have to do is comment 4. I'm typing my 4s. I want Jrue Holiday to stay here just as much as I want Brad Stevens to pay Jayson Tatum. I completely agree I completely understand why you extended Jaylen Brown. However, Jayson Tatum is your best player on the Boston Celtics. You guys can fight me on that in the comments. I'm okay with that. I feel comfortable saying Jayson Tatum is the best player. But it's time to pay him. like the best player. You do not want to let go of a player like Jayson Tatum. And we're going to go back to July here when Bobby Marks actually did tweet out what this contract extension is going to look like for Jayson Tatum. As you guys can see, in July 25th, he said, here's what Boston could be on the hook if the salary cap jumps 10% over the next 2 seasons. Of course, Jaylen Brown's $304 million contract does start in 2024-25 throughout the next 4 years. Jayson Tatum is eyeing the highest paid contract in the NBA at $338 million, which would start the year after that. Well, if you're going to extend Jayson Tatum, and you've already extended Jaylen Brown, how the hell are you going to pay everybody else? Especially a starting 6 the Boston Celtics have been working with. You're going to have to pay Jrue Holiday $40 million. Derrick White is also on the table for an extension. However, we do still have his contract through 2025, so you don't have to extend him for 2 more seasons if they don't want to. Kristaps Porzingis is also another $30+ million player you're going to have to contribute to keep this 5 together, which I am going to emphasize once again. If the Boston Celtics do not win this year, it is going to be extremely hard to keep this pace of the salary and the level of play to try and win it again. And Bill Simmons on the Bill Simmons podcast actually talked about this the other day. He said, look, if they blow it this year, if this year is disappointing in some way, you could do an Eastern Conference Finals, Game 7 again or something, and they're looking at having to pay White, having to pay Jrue Holiday, and also having to pay Jaylen $50 million, along with another Jayson Tatum extension, I don't see how all 3 of those guys can come back. Salary-wise, logistic-wise, you cannot bring these players back and keep paying them the money they're making in order to win Banner 18. That is where the rumors come from of, is Jaylen Brown worth the $60 million in the near future? Because that's going to really put a chokehold on the Boston Celtics to advance their roster in any way by paying $60 million. In my opinion, the C's need to do one thing, and that's extend Jayson Tatum. Whether or not you get rid of Jaylen Brown in the next couple of years, Jayson Tatum needs to retire in Boston. And a max contract is going to be the number one thing on Brad Stevens' mind. There are numerous reasons why you should be signing Jayson Tatum to a max contract. He's made 4 Eastern Conference appearances, 1 NBA Finals appearance at 25 years old, a 2-time NBA All-First Team, 5-time NBA All-Star. He is producing night in and night out. He very rarely is on the injury report, knock on wood. Jayson Tatum is worth the contract extension. However, it is going to be very pricey to have the two highest NBA contracts in history on the same team. So, hypothetically speaking, if Brad Stevens had to get rid of one of these players because they just can't afford it, go ahead and pick one to keep. Would you guys rather have Jaylen Brown retire in Boston? Would you rather have Jayson Tatum? Not saying they both can't, but it's going to be a pretty hefty salary. So, type JB if you want to see Jaylen Brown stay. Type JT if you want Jayson Tatum to stay. And while you guys are doing that down below, all you guys have to do is go on ahead and subscribe to this channel. We will be live tomorrow night for the Dallas Mavericks. We're going to be live on Sunday against the Warriors. And we're going to be live for every other Boston Celtics game. I don't want you guys to miss anything. So all you guys have to do is hit that sub button.